Welcome to Fancounters. My name's Nick.
And I'm Elizabeth.
Man, is it good to be Friday again. Whew.
I know, thank goodness.
I love it.
I do.
You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter by going to Fancounters Live. You can email us at hello@fancounters.com. And of course, don't forget to like our page on Facebook by going to facebook.com/fancounters. Lastly, I just want to mention you can also share our episodes. We would love that if you'd post it on your wall and say, guess what podcast I just found? It's so awesome. You must listen. Or just, you can pay your friends $1 or $5 or $100 too and have them listen.
So I have something to talk about.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And you will feel this pain if you do not already.
Okay.
It is the clothing of my children.
It's the worst job in the world.
It is the bane of my existence. It is the number one thing I hate about being a parent. So I have an 8-year-old girl, and I fill her closet with clothes that she tells me she likes.
Until you ask her to wear something.
And then she will not wear it. Every morning is a fight to get this child dressed.
Man.
I don't get it. It's a closet full of T-shirts, long sleeve or short sleeve, and leggings. Pick some. We have tried the night before. We lay out the clothes. It's all ready to go. The morning comes. She won't wear it.
Wow.
It's almost a tear fest every freaking
What's
morning.
her excuse? Like, Mom, it's so ugly. Is that what,
No,
like,
I
what
don't
she's
like
saying?
this. You made me wear it. You picked it out. I had nothing to do with this. And then when I don't help her get dressed, she goes to her, oh, so fashion-forward father, not, and says, Dad, Mom won't help me get dressed. And on the other side, I have the opposite problem with my son, who is 12, who would never get out of those clothes. Like over spring break, I worked a lot. And so my husband was left home with the children. And after the third day, I said to him, has he changed his underwear or socks?
Oh.
Or is he all day long and all night long in these exact same clothes he was been in since Saturday? Oh, I didn't notice. Oh, my God. So the boy won't change his clothes, and the girl changes them like 10,000 times. I recently saw
Not
something
into anything
on...
in her closet, though.
Right. And I recently saw something on Facebook that was whites, darks, and clothes you've had on for 5 seconds. So that the parents don't have to keep rewashing those clothes. But it drives me crazy. We are in the process of switching to our spring, summer clothes.
Right.
And so you have to try these things on. They don't fit. Just because it's the size you think you're wearing doesn't mean it's going to fit. And as you know, but our listeners may or may not know, my daughter is African American and she dances. So she has enormously large thighs and kind of a small butt, to be quite honest. And so stuff will not go up her legs. But if we can get it up her legs, then she's got this tiny little waist and nothing's holding it up there. And so I'm like, I don't know how to help you, honey. I don't know how to get you clothes that are actually going to fit. Now, you have this problem because you've got a clothes too. Now, do you identically dress them?
No. Very rarely will they be identically dressed. But they pick their own clothes, and that's what's funny is they'll pick it out in the store. That's why I can feel your pain. You get it home, it's in the closet. They never want to wear it. I'm like, why don't you want to wear this? You picked it out. It's just I want to wear they wear the same crap all the time.
Right. Lily wears the exact same, like, 5 outfits.
5 things, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know why we go shopping anymore.
Right. It drives me crazy. And this has been an absolute nightmare lately as I try to get them to try on clothes from last year if they still fit. And, of course, my son, who is now exactly 1 inch shorter than I am,
Oh, wow.
is growing through pants faster than I can buy him. He got 3 pairs of pants for Christmas, and they're too short.
No.
I'm like,
it's only 4 months.
Stop it.
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
All right, let's move on. That was fascinating.
Oh, sorry, people. It's just so... It's my least favorite parenting job.
Yeah. Well, laundry is my worst task. And so my wife will take that over. I said, I'll do anything else. Everything else. I don't want to do laundry.
Oh, I love laundry.
I hate it.
Doesn't bother me at all.
All right, let's get into today's show. Today we're going to talk about the murder case of Tupac Shakur and the Notorious B.I.G. because on the show today is a multi-talented writer, actor, and comedian. His name is Brian Guest.
Brian is currently starring as the U.S. Attorney Tim Searwright in USA's network's Unsolved, the Murder of Tupac and Notorious B.I.G. This drama crime series looks at the true stories of hip-hop icons' murders, which remain unsolved.
Brian also just finished a film called The Oath, and he has previously appeared on several TV shows like NCIS Los Angeles, Scorpion, Workaholics, and Rush Hour. And we're going to learn all about that in this next hour.
Coming to you from nowhere near the entertainment capital of the world, this is Fancounters, the podcast.
You need to come to Hollywood. I'm going to make you famous.
There was this mob of people, and they're screaming my name.
Crazy fans.
Stop following me. Don't come around my house. If you do, the cops are going to be at yours.
I think this guy wants to fight me. Ended up being a fan.
And they pull out of their backpack dozens and dozens and dozens of pictures of my face and tell me to sign all of them.
Are you kidding me?
I continually will get stopped.
Can I take a picture? We're gonna. Oh my God.
I definitely declined signing body parts.
Oh, I don't want to go there.
I'm the only one that's ever been on Sam Jackson and lived to tell about it.
That's why we call it Fancounters.
I don't think you're going to last on the air very long.
All right. Brian Guest, thanks for joining us on Fancounters. We're really glad you're here.
Hi guys, what's up?
Yeah.
Let's bring that back. Let's bring that commercial back. Huh?
What's up?
What's up?
What's up, those
Yeah.
guys?
Yep. More importantly, can you name what the product was?
Bud Light? Oh God.
Just wanted to know.
I just remember Budweiser from the Frogs.
Yes.
Yeah, was it the Frogs that did that?
They did Bud, and then the next one did
Wiser.
Was, and then the last one did
Man, what great marketing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't get stuff like that anymore. Now we just get loud, obnoxious music commercials with random people dancing, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, advertising.
Oh.
Anyway, following in the footsteps of the People versus O.J. Simpson, you're currently appearing in USA Network's Unsolved, the Murders of Tupac and the Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah.
And for those of you who haven't had a chance to check out the show, what are you waiting for? But what can you tell us?
Get on it.
Exactly. What can you tell us about it?
Well, it's from director-producer Anthony Hemingway, who did the O.J. Thing on ABC. It's fantastic. It stars Josh Duhamel and Jimmy Simpson, Bokeem Woodbine. They sort of track back and forth between 2007 and 1997, when these murders happened, and try to piece together the puzzle of how they were murdered.
Is it put together the same way that The People versus O.J. Simpson was?
Every show's a little different, right? I mean, it has a procedural element to it, but I wouldn't call it a procedural.
Okay.
So what it does nicely, I think, is it flashes back and forth, so you get to see different groups of detectives working on the case in different time periods, which is super cool.
Now, I know that you did a lot of research on the murders, due in part because you are a fan of both of them. Now, Tupac Shakur, for those who don't know, was fatally shot in Las Vegas when he was stopped at an intersection. And there's theories out there that are kind of crazy, but that he's still alive and faked his death. Do you have any belief in those theories?
I mean, they're just so absurd, right? I mean, like, think every generation has these icons that they look up to, that they fantasize of still being alive, like Elvis or, Jimmy Hoffa. All these sort of, iconic figures that, like, oh, they're in the, Bermuda. They're in Bermuda,
right,
hanging out and sipping cocktails on a beach somewhere. I don't buy that. Especially after, reading the book Murder Rap from lead detective Greg Kading, who worked on the case. Like, for me, his perspective is the perspective to trust on this. He has all the information. He worked the case, and I believe him.
What are your thoughts about Biggie planning Tupac's murder?
Biggie planning Tupac's murder?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't want to give too much away. I don't know. I don't want to give too much away. You
That's
just
okay.
have to watch Unsolved.
So the Notorious B.I.G. was also shot when he was sitting in an SUV. When he pulled, another vehicle came up alongside him and shot him. Now, LAPD officer Russell Poole was a lead investigator. He believed that Suge Knight planned Biggie's murder. Is that theory explored in the series?
Yeah, I think when the viewers watch, they'll have a good understanding as to what went down, and it's a high profile case, and essentially what happened when the LAPD started investigating later, one of the main reasons they started investigating was because Christopher Wallace's mother, the Notorious B.I.G, his mother, I believe, filed a $450 million lawsuit against the LAPD. So they didn't want to be on the hook for that money, so they wanted to solve the case. And so that's why they started investigating, 10 years later. So, yeah, everything's explored and unsolved.
Yeah, because this kind of, when we call present day in the show, that's like the 2006 time period, right?
Right, correct.
Do you know how fans are reacting to the show so far that are fans of the rappers?
I think, from what I understand, it's a hit. The numbers on USA have been fantastic. The guys that play Tupac and Biggie on the show are so good. They're great actors. They look like Tupac and Biggie.
Yes, they do.
Everyone on the show is fantastic. I mean, Josh Duhamel and Jimmy Simpson and Bokeem, everyone. Jamie McShane is fantastic. Like, this cast is an all-star cast, so I just feel lucky to be able to play with them.
And that's what I wondered, having been living through that time period, being a fan of the music, is it weird to kind of step back into the time period and relive even maybe what you were thinking at the time when the murders occurred and just kind of reliving your own experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so strange. It's so strange to play, first off, to play essentially, pretend about someone else's murder. So that's very strange. But then to play a part in a case that you live through and remember, and I was a fan of both of their music. So it's very odd. It takes me back certainly to that time period. I mean, me and my buddies used to, rock the Tupac and Biggie stuff all the time. So to go back, re-listen to that music, put yourself in that time period is very trippy.
When I told my sister we were interviewing you, and then I told her what you were in, she was like, "Oh my God, I love that show." And I was like,
"Yeah.
Oh my God, you're like the whitest chick on the planet.
I know,
Why do you care
funny
about these two rappers?"
I know, it's so funny, and to be honest, that's the cool thing about it is I think there is a ton of crossover where you think that a certain sect of society wouldn't be into it, but I think because it's hitting so many checking so many boxes, a lot of people are interested in it.
I mean, she was just a weird demographic to me for you. You know what I'm saying?
And the writer of the show is the whitest guy. He's just this dorky bookworm, and you're like, hey, how are you so tapped into this East Coast West Coast rap gang war? But he is, and I was surprised that when I first met him, I was like, oh my God, you're the writer of this?
Right. Don't you think this is written by some huge African-American man?
Yeah.
This is what we're doing, man. Okay, we'd love to.
We're done. So funny.
You've appeared in several other crime shows that were mostly fiction or purely fiction.
Sure.
But this one is obviously based on real events. Does that change how you prepare for the role?
I think everyone that worked on this sort of upped their game to bring as much honesty and truth and passion to the work. When you're playing real people, you want to sort of do it justice, and especially in this case, a lot of these people's friends and family are still around,
right?
And I think there's this extra sort of onus on the creative part to make sure you get it right.
I thought it was really interesting. I read that you were specifically asked to audition for this U.S. attorney role because you had previously worked with, what was it, the producer or director?
Yeah, I worked with Anthony Hemingway. I worked with Anthony Hemingway on a short film that I did that sort of went viral. He actually acted in it. It's called Australian Pilot Season. Okay. It was done, I think, in 2013. During a time period where I was auditioning a lot for pilots and whatnot, and a ton of Australian actors were being cast in those roles. So I felt that pilot season was you're going after these roles, but you have zero chance of booking anything because everything is going to Australian actors. And so I wrote about it, did this little short film. He played the director in it, and I had known him for a couple years before that, just socially. And he's such a great guy. He's so talented. He's so funny. He's so sweet and so nice. And anything that guy does, Anthony does, is just gold. And just being in his presence is nice because he's such a cool dude.
Did it provide more pressure for you to deliver like your best stuff in that audition for the role?
I don't know. I don't know if it was more pressure. It is weird. It is weird going in for auditions when you know the people. I think there's this I guess there is this extra sense of pressure. For me, it's a sort of like a nice disconnect when you don't know the people, because you can sort of, just you can be something else, and you can throw it away more, and there's not this level of care, I suppose, when you're doing it for people that you don't know. But when you do it for people that you know, when you audition for people that you know, I think, you want to get it. You want to get it right?
Yeah, because he's going to know you're BSing, right?
Yeah.
Because he's going to know your stuff.
Yeah, but that could go one of two ways, though, Brian. You could either be going into the audition as a formality, or it's a real thing where he's really going to be, judging how well you do. Did you have a feeling whether this was, this is just a formality, I'm going to be cast in this role? I mean, are you ever that sure?
No, there's no guarantees in this thing. Like, I had a friend, email me a couple weeks ago to go on tape for this project. She wanted me to put myself on tape for these 2 roles, fly to New York to do these guest stars. I was like, this seems like pretty close to a sure thing. But you never know what happens. You never know what happens. It turns out one of the other producers had hired their friend, and so it didn't go that way. It's so when you think that you're going to go in for this easy layup,
right?
LeBron James is right there to smack it off the backboard.
Psych!
He's always there looming, just back there looming, and just gets smacked off the backboard. There is no guarantees in acting. There's no guarantees in life. This is all we're just sort of going through this thing, faking our way through this business. I feel like, and when something lands, even when you book something, you have no idea.
Right.
I shot this thing for this commercial for Hershey's. It was called Snack Patrol. It was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where it was these 2 guys that would bust people on the streets for eating, less desirable snacks like potato chips and pretzels, and we would give them Hershey's products, right? Mm-hmm. We shot a ton of commercials for this thing. It aired, and then when the police brutality stuff became really relevant in the news, they pulled all these ads. And so, that was a 3-year contract that I essentially was going to be,
eating off of.
On with these guys. Yeah. So, you shot it, it's airing, and you're like, this is a sure thing. And then the next second, it's gone. It's just gone. And so you don't know, you have no idea what this thing is. So you might as well just enjoy it while it's happening, right?
For sure, yeah.
So you just wrapped up a film called The Oath, which is a satirical thriller based on the description. It sounds like it's about a man who's afraid the politics might make his Thanksgiving uncomfortable. Was that?
Yes, very uncomfortable.
Is that the right track? So can you tell us about this?
Yeah, that's the right track.
Okay.
Yeah, it's written and directed by Ike Barinholtz, who's fantastic. He's super funny, super talented. And if you follow Ike on Twitter, you get a sense of his political leanings. And so I think with everything that's going on in the culture right now, it led to this script. And, we all know what it's like to go home for, Christmas, the holidays, Thanksgiving, whatever it might be, and have that big family dinner where we're all sort of who's going to talk to Uncle Gary, or who's going to do this or that or whatever. And so, it's just that pump full of steroids, essentially. It's just that heightened, taken to the next level, and craziness ensues.
Now, Tiffany Haddish is in the film. She's pretty amazing. Yeah. Were you intimidated working with her?
It was sort of intimidating. She's legit. She's so funny. I'm a huge fan of her work. She's having a moment right now. But she's fantastic, so sweet, so funny. Once you go in and break the ice, it's all good.
Now, you've appeared on a lot of other TV series over the past 10 years.
Yeah.
I could name them all, but it's just names. Do any of them stand out to you as memorable, ones that you'll never forget?
I mean, playing with the Workaholics guys was great.
That was a great show. That's very funny.
Great, funny show. Those guys are also sweet and so funny. And that's one of those things where you go in, and it's nice because the director, Kyle Newacek, who's a part of that comedy troupe, with the Workaholics guys, came up to me and was like, "Hey man, loved your audition. Just to let you know, like, feel free to do whatever, say whatever." And it's like, really? Wait, what? That's amazing. Like, that never happens. And so, like, when you have that sort of support behind you, it feels like, oh, I can loosen up and relax and be myself and do my thing. And they capture it on the screen. It's so free flowing and such improv based stuff that it turns out great. So the Workaholics thing was awesome. I mean, I've had so many great experiences working on set. I can't really complain.
Is there a show that you're watching now that you wish you could guest star on, like just some show you're binging?
Can I be on Wild Wild Country, that documentary?
I don't even know what that is.
I don't know.
Can I find a way to be on this cult documentary on
Is that what it is? Sure.
Yes.
We'll see if we can help you with that.
What's that?
We'll see if we can help you with that.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's shot and done already, and it's a limited thing, but God, I would love to go back in time and be a part of that.
Yes.
Let's see. I mean, Homeland I'm watching right now. It's a great show. Silicon Valley obviously would be a dream job. There's a ton of stuff. To be honest, though, I watch a lot of Dateline and 48 Hours.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's so strange, right?
Not really. Those shows get addicting, especially because they're based on real things, and you want to find out what's going to happen. That's why they keep you sticking around.
So a ton of my DVR stuff is loaded up, 54% of Dateline, 48 Hours, 60 Minutes.
Nice.
God, I'm getting old and weird.
Yeah, no, I can't go without CBS Sunday Morning, so I'm right there with you. I got to tape it every day when we're at church.
Now, there's a reason our show is called Fancounters, and it's because we're always curious to hear about run-ins that you've had with fans.
Okay.
Can you think of any fan encounters that you've had that maybe are weird or crazy, or maybe you had a stalker you can tell us about?
Or somebody you just thought was cute as heck.
Or that.
Wow. I've had a couple experiences. I shot a commercial, let's say 6 or 7 years ago. It was a beer commercial, and it sort of played a lot, and so my face was out there a lot on this beer commercial. And I left Jelena in Venice, very nice restaurant. It's one of my favorite places. It's very expensive, so I don't go there that much. Mm-hmm. But it's on Abbot-Kinney in Venice, and so I left with my girlfriend, and we were walking down the street, and this guy started just following me with a camera, and he started asking me. This is when Arnold Schwarzenegger was sort of in the news with stuff about his nanny. And so I started asking me all these questions. I was like, hey, man, who are you? What's going on? And he's like, it's just TMZ. I was like, okay, no, come on. Someone's putting, one of my buddies put you up to this. This is very funny, hilarious. What's going on? He's like, no, I'm with TMZ. And he handed me his card, and it really was. He's like, no, you're the beer guy, right? I was like, what?
Wow.
There's gotta be other people that you're.
It's a very slow news day.
Yeah, I mean, I was just must be a slow news day to be trying to follow me down Abbot-Kinney. So that was pretty funny.
Wow.
I mean, I get letters every once in a while from people that watch stuff. When I guest starred on Torchwood, that was sort of a big, a worldwide sort of cult phenomenon, the sci-fi show done by Russell Davies, and so I shot that with Bill Pullman, and so I think a lot of people that watch that are still are still watching that.
Sure, yeah.
So every once in a while I'll get like, a handful of letters in the mail. They're like, hey, like loved you on this, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I don't get like people coming up to me and like, in restaurants or anything like that. I'm sort of like the undercover guy on TV. You like might recognize me here or there, but it's not, it's not like, my face is popping all over the places. Like people in restaurants like, hey, I know you. Right, guest.
Now, you did some training with a favorite actor of mine, Jeff Goldblum. Now, This was at Playhouse West. That's London, right?
Playhouse West is actually in North Hollywood, California.
Well, there you go. Okay.
There it is. Yep.
So can you tell me a little bit about the experience and working with Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, literally one of the best times of my life was just sitting next to him and hearing him. He's so avant-garde and so funky and so such like a unique mind to listen to, and to watch him sort of work with actors was special. You got to take a peek inside of like his curiosity and what makes him tick and what he figures out and finds in scenes, and like why he's always investigating and looking into this thing of like, why are you doing this thing this way? And he's so curious. So his curiosity always struck me. So I was blessed to be around him for as long as I was. I think I took class with him for like 2.5, 3 years, which was great. I'm not sure if he's still teaching anymore, but man, I wish he was. He's so good.
When he would ask you like about your choices and stuff, do you get stumped occasionally? Like, yeah, why did I do that? Or why did I make that choice?
Wow.
What's that like for a learning
like,
actor?
That was like 16 years ago. You're really making me think here. I was probably like, why am I doing this thing this way? Or, yeah, I was such a young, new actor trying to get my feet under me. And it was like, oh, here, Jeff Goldblum is teaching you how to like do this thing. So, yeah, it was interesting for sure.
We know you have a 2-year-old daughter. And
That's right, I do.
Nick and I both are parents. He has twin 6-year-olds, and I have an 8-year-old girl and a 12-year-old son. And we were talking in the opening about how dressing them is such a joy. Is there any parenting so far that has surprised you?
It's all surprising.
Every day is surprising.
Every day is a new adventure.
Every day. You guys know, every day is something new, and I'm at the point right now where her brain is just exploding. I have a daughter, and her brain is just exploding like every day. And so she's very verbal. She's talking a lot. And now it's in the phase of like, why?
Oh,
like, why?
yes.
Yeah, why? Why this? Why that? Why can't I touch the bee? Well, because it's got a stinger on it. Why? I don't know why it's got a stinger. I mean, like, it's just on and on and on. And the dressing part is hilarious.
Oh, it only gets worse. It only gets worse.
Will she pick her own stuff at this point? Or are you still able to put her in what you guys want to put her in?
Yeah, it's a negotiation. It's a negotiation every morning. I mean, her negotiating skills right now are just off the charts. Literally. And the close thing is a negotiation. Eating food is a negotiation. We're terrible parents. We let her watch Sophia sometimes. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
We are.
Or like Doc McStuffin's fantastic TV show. Moana. I love Moana, by the way.
Just saw it the other day.
So we try to limit her like TV intake, and so she'll be like, 1 minute. Watch it for 1 minute. And we're like, no, Ryan, like you have to go to bed. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. No, Ryan, you have to go to bed. 5 minutes. But she's negotiating like
she's
more.
Negotiating
the wrong direction.
Wrong direction. And at some point we like give in. Okay, fine. Another night of
You
Moana.
can't tell time anyway. Just fall asleep.
You have no idea. By the way, you're holding up five fingers for 2 minutes.
Yes.
Jeez.
I get that a lot too. You mentioned eating, and that's how it is with the twins. They'll be like, "How about I'm 6, so how about I eat 6 more bites?" I'm like, "Well, what does a bite look like?" Let's determine that first.
I cannot imagine twins. Like that just seems insane to me. There's 2 of the same child walking around. Wow.
it's a lot easier now than it was, in your stage where you're at with the 2-year-old. But
and Nick was the stay-at-home parent, so Nick got
so
full
great.
on
It was
2
awesome.
girls at all times.
Yeah,
I love it.
I
love it.
Yeah.
Definitely their number one go-to parent still, which makes my wife like, when are they going to want the mom? I was like, dear, it's
my
coming.
My daughter this morning told me that I was her best friend.
Aw.
And I thought her mom was going to cry.
Well, it is. You take those moments. Like, my daughter is unnaturally attached to my husband, and
Oh, that's so
people are just like, that's what it is. And my son, who is now 12 and has gotten over it, spent most of his childhood saying to my husband, well, she's going to divorce you so she can marry me. That's not how this works, dude. Just so you know.
That's so funny.
This game is played.
No concept.
So, Brian, you might not be able to control everything at home with your toddler, but you do have full control when you're writing and developing your own stuff, like your material.
Nice segue. Yes, I do.
Yeah, so you get an outlet like that. Now, I read you've got 3 TV pilots written, ready for pitching.
I've got a ton of pilots that I've written. I mean, they're all sort of in various stages. One, when Relativity was a company, they optioned it, and then I got it back when that company essentially went bankrupt. So that's finished. I pitched something to Warner Brothers last year. It was sort of late in the pilot season game, so hopefully I'm going to try to attach a producer to that. I'm working on another multi-camera right now, which I'm super excited about, and that's something that I haven't delved into that format before.
Okay.
So that's a new experience for me, but I'm super excited to write that, and I think I should have a draft on here pretty shortly, which would be great.
Are your scripts inspired by real events, or are you kind of brainstorming, ooh, this would be a good topic, or how does your process work?
I think the easiest thing for me to do is to write from my own life. Like, I try to create stories that are inspired by things that have happened to me or situations that I've lived through. I developed a script one time that was sort of like foreign to like me. It was outside my comfort zone and outside my box, and I had to do a lot of research to try to figure out like who these characters really were. It was an ensemble piece, and so it took me much longer to write that because I didn't know who these characters were. But if I'm writing something that is personal to me, it's much easier to write.
Right. Now, will you ultimately know each scene? Like, you'll draft out each scene before you actually start writing it is in dialogue form? Or do you kind of just, your first draft is all done scene by scene, you're not quite sure where it's going?
I think every script I've worked on has been a little different. The process is always sort of like a fluid thing. This multi-camera that I'm working on right now, I was sort of just writing it from the top of my head, and I got halfway through it, and I was just like, okay, the dialogue is really funny. Man, I'm great at dialogue, guys. Great at dialogue, great at jokes. When it comes to story structure, I need help with that direction. So for this in particular, so I wrote the first half of it, and I was like, man, this is hilarious. And I was like, oh, but I don't know exactly where I'm going with it. So I had to go back and do it like a proper outline, a proper beat sheet, and figure out okay, how do I set this thing up? Because it's something that I've never written before. I've never written a multi-camera like this. And so I wanted to make sure I follow all the rules of the multi-camera and all the format and the structure of it. So I sort of scrapped that first half draft that I did, and now I'm going back in with keeping a lot of that sort of stuff that I put down on paper in mind, but now going back and giving it more of a framework and structure to make it go forward in a better way. So now I'll go back after that, and I'll go back and fill in those scenes with more details, and then get to the jokes after that.
I always find it fascinating when I'm watching something and I think the writers have written themselves into a corner, and I'm like, how are they going to do this? And it's fun, I think, as a writer to figure it out. And
I think it's all sort of like the creative process. the writing has been so helpful for me in my acting. And what happens is they ping pong back and forth, and really help the other one in this weird sort of like dynamic relationship. My acting has grown because of my writing, and my writing has definitely grown because of my acting. And so when I'm putting these things down on paper for the writing aspect, like I a lot of times like I'll bounce ideas off of like a partner, like back and forth, like actually like we're acting it out to make it feel more alive, which is super helpful.
Speaking of pilots, obviously, you do audition for some. And
I do.
Have you ever been in a part of a pilot that didn't ultimately get picked up for one reason or another? How many pilots do you think you have sitting out there?
There was one that I did. Well, there was one. I mean, there's just so many crazy things have happened. Like, I booked this pilot with Charlie Murphy years ago, and I was shooting Hawaii 5-0 at the same time. And so they were trying to work out flight information and flights back to like do a table read and fitting and shoot Hawaii 5-0 in on location in Hawaii and make it back to like LA and to do the pilot for the Charlie Murphy project. And so booked all these flights back and forth and blah 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 blah, and then I land back in LA after like shooting a night in Hawaii, and they're like, oh yeah, the pilot actually was scrapped. So it's just like, yeah, there's like so many just crazy stories like that.
Because that's a fun flight to do multiple times, Hawaii to LA.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Definitely,
it's just a quick 6-hour trip.
I was going to say, is that 6-8 hours? Yeah, that's charming.
So I found BrianGuestCoaching.com, and it looks like,
That's
are you
right.
still coaching aspiring actors and writers?
Yeah, So I work with actors. I teach acting classes. I teach every Tuesday and Wednesday nights. And it's been one of the most rewarding parts of my career, to be honest. I feel like when I work with actors and they get to a good place with their work and they start booking jobs, it's sort of like, it's as equally as satisfying or more so for me to watch them book work than it is for myself. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but the only thing I can like relate is like if you give someone a present at the holiday, during the holidays, give them a present and then watch them. It's like much more rewarding to watch them open the present than it is to like receive a present. So yeah, I work with actors, like literally people that have been like transplants, fresh off the boat, just landed in LA, like come see me. Or I work with, some like celebrity clients, which is great. So I get to see like this wide swath of people, which is super cool.
How long does somebody say that's fresh to the industry, coming to you for the first time? How many classes, sessions, years, months before you think that they might be ready? And I know it's all based on the person, but what's the normal? What can people who do want to make a jump at this? What can they expect as far as training before their coach might think they're ready to go out for an audition?
Well, like you said, everyone's different, and every situation's different. Like you could strike gold the day you land in LA. Like I think that's the magic. I think that one of the reasons people coming here is like, oh, it's like hitting the lottery. I think the idea of like walking down Hollywood Boulevard and some movie producer seeing you,
right,
like that sort of thing, that doesn't really happen. And that doesn't, well, it may have happened in like earlier in the Hollywood life, but I don't think that happens now. Mm-hmm. What I encourage a lot of actors to do is to write and to create their own content, because that's, if you want to act, it's essentially saying like, here, see my voice. Like, I want to be heard. I want to do this thing. Well, if you're a creative person, you have all of the resources to do that in the first place. There is zero fee for distribution on the internet.
That's
you can
right.
put things up on YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook, text, put something on your iPhone camera and send it to your mom. If you want to act, you can find any place to act. As far as like number of like coaching sessions to get someone to a next level, like, yeah, it takes time to to get confident and build your chops and know actually how to even walk into an audition room, you know, like there's certain parts of that which I think are teachable pretty quickly, but it's more just getting comfortable with yourself. Acting is a lot like a golf game, you know. You're competing with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're not competing with other people. Even as like much as your brain is like, oh, there's like 10 other guys that look at me that look like me here in this room. Like if you start thinking like that, then you've already lost. The competition is like within yourself. So if you can overcome that sort of thing, you're in a much better place to start working.
Now, are aspiring actors at an advantage if they would, like you said, you can put anything on the internet. So
Sure.
if you're involved in a production that maybe has, let's call it shoddy production, but your performance was great, does that help someone or hurt someone?
Well, I think, I mean, it's good to always say yes. Like it's always good to say yes to work, especially for new actors. You know, and so what you're doing is you're also creating relationships, and you're getting an opportunity to work that muscle of acting, and not just like acting in a box, but acting in front of people, and people get to see your work. You know, I think it's a double-edged sword of like if you're thinking like, oh, is the production value, you know, not so good, but the acting is great. I think if your acting is good and you know, you're a good person, it's just going to find a way. The cream always sort of rises to the top.
Sure.
I feel like. And the more opportunities you get, the better chances you're going to hit some doubles and singles and home runs here.
Let's hope for those home runs. You know.
Yeah, let's hope for those home runs. But doubles are good too.
Yeah.
You know, doubles are great.
Now, speaking of doubles and home runs, I do have a baseball question for you. Because the baseball season has started, and I figured...
But first, let me
wanting
tell
to say
yes,
something
because
here.
last week, Nick went on a 10-point rant of what is wrong at our baseball stadium here in Wisconsin.
Oh,
Nick,
wow! What's going on in the baseball stadium?
Nick is a avid, or shall I say crazed, fan of baseball. And his joy in life is to go to every single stadium. And what do you have, 2 left?
I have 2 left. Yeah, Colorado and Oakland.
Yes. And on last week's show, he just went on and on and on about the horrible things that are happening at baseball.
They're not
What's
horrible.
Going on? I need to know. This is such a build-up.
Okay, here's the build-up.
It really wasn't meant to be. I just wanted to interject it.
So you're in LA. So I'm assuming you're either a Dodgers or an Angels fan.
Well, I played baseball in college, so
right.
I'm also a huge baseball fan. And I'm from right outside Philadelphia in a little place called Delaware. And so my allegiance is pretty much exclusively to Philadelphia.
Excellent.
However, the LA Dodgers are like my second favorite team. Yeah.
I can accept that, but you're staying true to your hometown team, which I love.
That's right. I mean, I've lived in this town for almost 20 years at this point. Like, I'm allowed to like root for the Dodgers at some point, right?
Agreed. I was stuck in Cleveland for 6 years, so I rooted for the Indians. Luckily, it was one of those ALCS years. But, okay, so this is the buildup that Elizabeth was going to, because I talked about this last week.
Quickly, please.
Very quickly. When you go to a Dodgers game...
Another episode of talking about baseball.
Right.
Oh, my gosh.
We're going to do this again. I was just merely making a point.
Okay, the biggest problem my brother and I have with going to games is the Brewers have started to... Because we're in Milwaukee, by the way. I don't know if you knew that.
Right.
They put... Instead of batting average, when they're listing the lineups when the teams are batting, they list OPS, which is their on-base percentage plus their slugging percentage, which tells you like pretty much nothing, instead of their average, which really bothers me. So do the Dodgers do this too?
Man, that's a technical question. I don't know.
That's okay.
I can't honestly answer that.
All right.
I suspect they do.
That was just one of the new things they've started to do.
He's also
I'm not going to go through the list.
No, but he's also upset because most of the stadiums have switched to Coke, which Nick and I are both huge fans of, but ours stayed Pepsi. And he's also upset because the margaritas have gone up in price and no souvenir glass.
Yeah, they took away my souvenir cup. But anyway, he doesn't need to know all that.
You can't take a good souvenir cup away.
They did.
I mean, the drinks already cost like $35 in an arm, and you're firstborn, so you got to get a souvenir cup out of it.
Exactly.
I know. The things this man, whatever. Moving on.
Okay, so are you excited about the Phillies' chances now that they have Jake Arrieta?
I like having Arrieta. However, Gabe Kapler is our manager right now, and he's made some real bonehead decisions so far in the first several games of the year. So I'm not too hopeful that we're going to be able to have a successful NL East season. I mean, he went through the first couple games and used like 20 pitchers. You can't do that.
Right.
Even I know that's wrong.
Your whole rotation, and then he brought in a guy from the bullpen that hadn't even warmed up. I mean, Gabe, come on, you're better than this.
Now, do you prefer to watch the games in person or on TV?
I love baseball, but baseball can be a bit of a snooze fest, right? We can all agree on that. So watching baseball on TV can get boring. It's nice to have on in the background, like if I'm doing stuff around the house or I'm
check the score.
Procrastinating from writing. It's nice to have a baseball game on. But going to baseball games is great. Get some buddies together, go have a hot dog and an expensive margarita, hopefully, and gather the souvenir cup up if you can.
Not anymore.
So going to the game is always fun.
Okay.
I was lucky enough. This is crazy. I was lucky enough to go to Game 7 of the World Series last year.
Whoa. That's the only kind of game I haven't been to is a World Series.
And
yeah, it was. It was expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But, I whipped out a picture of me playing T-ball when I was 5 years old, and I showed it to my girlfriend. We had a long discussion as to why this was very important.
Oh,
and
she fell for it.
Of the World Series, and I used some of my daughter's negotiating skills.
Yes, right. Start low, go high.
And that's right. And we decided to do it, and it was awesome. However, the Astros just destroyed the Dodgers from the first pitch. It was sort of sad.
Yeah,
but,
sorry about that.
I got to go, and it was a dream come true.
Yeah, it's kind of like, but dear, I'll only spend $1,000 tickets. No, how about $2,000 tickets?
Yeah, don't worry.
Exactly.
It's just like that. Man, this has been fun. Can you tell us about some other projects that might be coming up for you, or what do you want the audience to know?
Wow. You can find me on the internet. I think my handle across most of the platforms is BeOurGuest20, which is super kitschy because it's sort of like
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, Beauty and the Beast. Big fan. I don't know what's coming up next. That's the crazy thing about being an actor is you don't know where you're going to be, in a month from now. So still auditioning, still doing that stuff. I do improv at Upright Citizens Brigade in Hollywood. So
okay.
You can find me bouncing around that theater, and auditioning and writing and see where the wind takes me.
Awesome.
Cool.
So, that sounds great. This has
you.
been a fun little hour. I appreciate you joining us.
Thank
This
you.
has been
How
fantastic.
delightful.
I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you. Our thanks to Brian Guest for being on the show this week. And if you haven't seen it yet, you can binge watch it. It's USA Network's Unsolved, the Murders of Tupac and the Notorious B.I.G. So that was good.
Oh, I loved him.
I liked talking to, celebrity people just about normal things like baseball and children.
That's right.
I can relate to both.
Because that's what we do.
It was really fun.
It was.
So
It's a delightful time.
tune in again next week. I'm going to blow the cover of next week's show.
Oh, don't do it.
Are you ready?
Don't do it.
Because we talked about...
I heard him mention it.
Yes.
I heard him, and I almost said something too, but then I kept my mouth shut.
I'm not.
All right.
Doc McStuffins is going to join us next week. Kiara Muhammad is going to be here telling us all about her experience being the voice of Doc McStuffins.
I know. I'm excited, actually, because I'm a Doc McStuffins fan.
We have to be. We lived through the whole
Right. Welcome to 6
series.
and 8.
Exactly. Anyway, you can follow us on social media. We mentioned at the top of the show. We'll do it again. Instagram and Twitter, we're at Fancounters Live. Facebook.com, we're at Fancounters. And you can always email us at hello at fancounters.com. Why don't you do that? Tell us about your favorite episodes so far, or what you liked about this one, or who you might want to see on a future episode, and we'll do our best to get your guest on the show.
Yes. And please, please, please make sure you hit that like button.
5-star reviews all over the place.
We'd love
iTunes,
it.
Stitcher, iHeartRadio, everywhere.
We'd love it.
All right, guys. Have a great week.
See ya. Bye.